off on the right track today. Or maybe it'll just help you recalibrate. Take your mind off all the stress that's going on around you. Come on, you ready? Let's go.
Living out loud, living out loud. Loving out loud, loving out loud. Laughing out loud, laughing out loud. I want the world to know that I'm blessed. Hey, oh, hey, yeah, hey.
How you guys doing?
Good, great. So, good.
How are you doing?
Hey, everybody.
Yeah.
Together here, so we can start this discussion. So I know this is very, it can be a very sensitive subject, because I think I spoke to each and every one of you individually this week as we were preparing for this discussion today.
Wait a minute. Are we on video yet? Because I forgot to do something. I'm ready. Let's go.
On. Too late, my friend. It's too late.
God.
They already showed you the beginning. Too late.
They saw you already, dude. They know who you are. They know,
Yeah.
They know your voice, man.
I got to plan better.
All right, I think we are all set here. Jana Hicks, church hurt is a deep hurt. Yes, it is. So let me see if I could set this up correctly. First of all, let me welcome everybody. Thank you all for joining the Living Out Loud radio TV show with, actually, I'm changing the name of the show. It's Brothers Living Out Loud radio TV show with Thurston O'Neill. That's the new name of the show. That's going to be the name of our podcast and all of that. Today's subject, man, is really, I'm sure we have a lot of stories, but I want everybody to understand, if you saw the promotion for the show, the full title of today's show, it's not just church hurt, it's surviving church hurt. And listen, this conversation can go in a lot of different ways, but I think it's going to be very powerful. It's going to be very helpful to a lot of people watching, and people have started to come in already. So thank you guys for chiming in, for coming in on the Facebook page. So first of all, let me just welcome everybody. Everybody introduce yourself and say hello to everybody that's watching. I'm gonna go from my screen up top. Darren, you're first. Pastor Darren.
Hey, everybody. Darren Butler. God bless you.
God bless you, brother. Minister Reggie.
Hey, Reg, I'm happy to be here always. God bless everybody. Thank you for tuning in to our private/public conversations.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is, Reg. It is. But because before you know it, we deep in this conversation, you forget that we're live to the world. So we keep that in mind, but we still have open, honest conversations. Deacon Randy Legions.
you just introduced me, man, and I'm nervous.
Don't be nervous, man. Don't be nervous, Randy. Don't be nervous. This is gonna be real good. Gene.
Yeah, I know.
Gene Butler.
Yes, Gene B here. Bless you, everyone. How's everyone doing?
God bless you, brother. Glad to see you, man. Glad to see you. And of course, Vaughn Simmons, that was trying to hide his face earlier. But you won't have to hide your face, man. It's gonna be real good. Go ahead, introduce yourself.
Grace and peace, everybody. Glad you guys are here.
Awesome. So, church hurt. This is a very deep subject, and I generally, when we talk about when we say what we're going to talk about, I generally have in my mind where it's going to go, and I'll read a little bit and so forth. But I know you guys you guys tend to go really deep, even on the simplest subject. Even if we're talking about favorite musicians or whatever, you guys start doing your research. Randy is over there digging through, well, we don't call them crates anymore. Like he has an immense CD collection and now MP3s and stuff. So he goes deep looking for old songs and stuff like that. So I know on this subject, just from our conversations during the week, I know that you guys have really dove into this. So does anyone want to start us off? Does anyone have initial thoughts on this subject, surviving church hurt?
I'll crack the ice first.
Excellent. Thank you, Pastor.
I think because also I want to get ahead of Randy. This is a very, very delicate subject.
Mm-hmm.
I really love your sensitivity to how you named it, because I think that's very important, which is surviving church hurt. And if I could go a little bit step further, I would even go so far as to venture to say, going from surviving church hurt to thriving on church hurt. Okay?
Very good, Darren.
This may come across as a shameless plug, but I have a very personal, and so one of my younger brothers is here today, and he can attest to this. Mm-hmm. I have a very personal experience with this.
Okay.
But my experience is tempered because I'm a pastor.
Yes.
So at the risk of making a shameless plug, I'm actually in the process of authoring one of my next books titled When Great People Greatly Disappoint. Surviving the Event of Leadership Letdown.
Wow.
And it comes out of my experience with church hurt. Mm-hmm. And I think what's so important is that we realize that you can survive, and that with anything else that God allows to come into our lives, as strange as this may sound, there is a purpose for it.
Absolutely.
Reminds me of the Psalm 67 and verses 71. No, verses 67 and 72. And it may not be Psalm 61, it may be another one. But essentially, David said, it was good for me that I was afflicted.
Mm.
Now have I learned your word. Before I was afflicted, I went astray, but now have I kept your word. 2 verses.
Mm.
So there's a purpose that God has in everything, including church hurt. One of the things, my experience and journey as a pastor, a lot of times we really put great emphasis on knowing what to do, but some things happen to us so we'll know what not to do. And I came away from my situation with church hurt. Once I was able to get through the phases that I went through, I came away from it realizing, okay, you know what, God, you let me walk through that because there were some things that I would have never understood as a leader not to do, which was just as important of knowing what to do,
right,
along with my line of purpose and destiny. So now I'm going to be very transparent now, okay? And you may have to bar me from the future podcast, but that's okay.
So hold on 1 second, Pastor Darren, because I don't want you to give it all the way in the first 5 minutes.
Okay.
Now, is this something, what you're about to share, is this something you could hold on to and bring back later? Because I want to give everybody a chance to give their initial thoughts.
Certainly, but bring me back before Randy. I'm just being facetious. I'm just being facetious. But
no, I got you. Okay.
I can hold it. I can, because it's probably going to be really heavy.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. Absolutely.
You're probably going to have to bar me from coming back.
No, not at all. I welcome it all, man. We welcome it all here. Let me go to Minister Reggie. Just your initial thoughts on this subject, Reg, and where your mindset is on this.
Well, first of all, I called you. We talked. My wife was with me. We were in the car. We were just taking a drive, and then your wife was with you somewhere in the vicinity overhearing. We had a great conversation.
Right.
And we just kind of talked out our thoughts. We were excited and nervous.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And I had time. After I came home, I prayed, and I was digging in the scriptures, and God told me to chill. He told me to sit there and just listen to him for a minute, right? And he took me through a trip to few, I have a unique position in my church. I'm also a leader. I'm not a pastor or anything like that, but I'm a minister.
Right, absolutely.
And I've experienced, the first time I experienced church hurt, and I'll probably share it later, was overseas. Right. But so I have the experience of experiencing church hurt, and I want to talk about church hurt also. But I've experienced church hurt. I've experienced it also on the other end of hurting others, and accepting that and dealing with the pride of, man, I dealt with so many things, in terms of somebody telling me how I hurt them and I didn't even know.
Right.
And I had to accept it. I had to listen. And then I've dealt with other people who I love who have been hurt in the church. And those who I know who have hurt others in the church. So many different aspects to my position and experiences that made me really go back and think. And even the term church hurt, I had to think about. Is it really church hurt, or is it us being hurt in the church? Which I think is two different things to me. So I'm just still unpacking it. I'm still thinking through it. So that's where I am.
Okay. All right. Excellent. Awesome. Vaughn, where you at?
What you say? I've been, as I said before, I've been in church my entire life. I've been a part of, I say, 3 really powerful, large ministries since childhood. So I've seen a lot, and I've witnessed quite a bit. I'm personally wired where things don't hurt me as much, but I've sure witnessed things happen to other people where they were devastated, or people have taken things to really hard that have happened to ministries. I would say it runs the gamut. There's from small to large, and there's different things that all go into the basket of church hurt. And I'm happy to talk about it today, and maybe
Awesome.
I can give some insight.
I'm sure you can. Absolutely. Gene, where are you? Where you sit with the subject, man?
Yeah, I'm kind of touching on something that Reggie touched on. I thought was very important. I thought about it right before we started, is that there's two sides also, that you can actually be the person who was accused of the church hurt. And so it brought me to a question that I was going to actually present to you, Thurston. Are we clear on what the definition of church hurt is?
So
because I think sometimes it comes down to what were your expectations, because I've learned there's a difference between church hurt versus selfish motives. And when things didn't go your way, I've seen people walk away and said they were hurt because it didn't go their way. And someone like yourself, Thurston, I can speak candidly, I'm sure there are many people say, I should have gotten that solo instead of him.
Right.
And so they're angry with you. And like Reggie said, you can have someone angry with you and you don't even know. You didn't even do anything to this person. So sort of defining what is church hurt.
That's really good. And even going back to what Minister Reggie said, I know that I have hurt people. And I'm not even in a position of, I would say, that many people may disagree with me. But I don't view myself as a person in a position of authority in a way that I can hurt people, but just being who I am and just being visible like I am, I know that I've hurt people. And it's not easy to hear. It's not easy to hear that you've hurt someone when you know in your heart you have not you have not intentionally gone out to hurt someone, but something you did, something you said, the way that they may have been overlooked at some point is hurtful, and it's not easy to hear. So I definitely understand where you are, Gene, and defining it, I believe, is very, very important. And I'm sure by the end of this conversation, we'll have a better definition, because I think the definition is different depending on who you are, right? Who you are and your past experiences. So, Randy, where you sit, man? What's your initial thoughts on this?
Well, being that we talk in the title, and because I have talked to several people, in my past, in my time, and so this title to me just remains the same as church hurt. You know what I'm saying? I understand all the different variables. But there is the thing as when people talk about us being hurt in the church.
Yes.
Whether it's by you or someone else, wherever it is, they hurt. So
Right.
my thing is that I tell people that I have talked to, they have called me and shared something with me. And I wind up telling them this, and then we can flip it over. I'll say to them, there's two things going to happen to you when you're in the church. So there two things that people are going to do. Either they're going to run you from God or they're going to run you to God.
Amen.
And they're going to want you, and you want to be ran to God.
Yes.
That's where you're going to find yourself on your knees. You're going to find yourself crying out before him. You're going to find yourself looking to him, trying to get an understanding of what's going on. God's dealing with you and sharing with you and talking to him. So I said two things going to happen. Either they're going to run you away or they're going to run you to. And that's at the end. You want to be ran to God to deal with this type of situation, because no matter how we try to spin it, it's real.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
It is real. Yes. So that's where I basically stand. I'm gonna flip it back over to you, and I'll tell you some things later on. That's gonna, I had already told you, that's gonna try to like shock a lot of people. But I come to learn something, that the hurt is for a reason. No matter how you look at it, yeah, you hurt, but there's something good that's gonna come out of this hurt if you deal with it.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna share some things later on, brother.
And,
so y'all go ahead.
So if you deal with it and how you deal with it. So this is the thing. We are more mature Christians sitting here now. If I think back to the 15, 16, 17-year-old Thurston, mid-20s Thurston, it's easier for us to say now, run to God. To how you deal with it is important. It's very important. But that young Thurston didn't want to hear that. That young Thurston wanted to get even. He wanted somebody to hurt like he was hurting. And Vaughn, I go back to something you said. I can't necessarily say that there was any tragic hurt for me individually, but I saw things happen to family and friends that affected me greatly because, again, and we'll get into this.
Because of your relationships with them.
Personal relationships with them. Exactly. And read something we talked about on the phone about how church hurt and church relationships can be sort of parallel with the feelings that you get and the hurt that you receive from family relationships because of what you expect from a church environment, a church family, when it's done right. You expect to be loved. You expect to be encouraged. You expect to be lifted up, and you expect to grow in that environment, and you don't expect to go and to be hurt in that environment. As much as I tell my daughters all the time, and I think my daughters have great relationships, and I think I have a great relationship with my wife and my daughters, I have done things to hurt them. And I find myself having to go back to apologize. I try to do it quickly. I try to do it because I don't want them to sit with this. I don't want things to settle in. And even though I come back and apologize years later, this thing is already set into the way that they operate, the way that they deal with people. So it is important. It is important the way we deal with it. But I would you know, those young people out there that are experiencing it right now.
Yeah.
How do they deal with these feelings and emotions that are going on? So that's where I stand on it also. So Darren, I'm gonna go back to you. Now we can go a little deeper, and you can share what you were going to share and respond to anything that you heard as we were sort of laying the groundwork.
So the first thing I want to do is I had alluded to 2 scripture references, and I wanted to make sure those were clear. That's the 119th division of the Psalm, verses 67 and 71. I used to wander off, and this is the New Living Translation. I used to wander off until you disciplined me, but now I closely follow your word. My suffering was good for me, for it taught me to pay attention to your decrees. And something that Randy just alluded to earlier. You know, there's a purpose in our pain. There's a purpose in our pain. Even the pain of weightlifting is what? Expanding the muscle. Right. Something you just said earlier. Well, there was a couple of things that were said, and I'm gonna unload on you guys what I had to tell you. But we talked about getting hurt within the varied scopes of relationships. And one of the things I learned some time ago through my marriage, and I have a great marriage. I love my wife after Jesus. She's the best thing that ever happened to me. I learned something, that you can't get hurt if you're not attempting to love. So a lot of times there's this hurt that takes place because we're in these dynamics where love is supposed to be and where love is expected. So we expect love, certainly in the church. We expect love in our homes and our relationships. But there's just some hurts that don't come unless there is the endeavor and the attempt to love. Then we talk about expectations, and Gene, my brother, I'm just looking at him, y'all, because I'm not used to seeing him without hair. So I'm trying to navigate that, man. But he touched on something about expectations. And actually, one of the chapters in my book is titled Reasonable versus Unreasonable Expectation. And a lot of times we have the church hurt and other hurts because, as Gene said, our expectations are not realistic, or we don't realize, okay, there's 2 sides to this thing. So here's what happened to me. When I started pastoring, I went through a very traumatic transition. And I'm going to talk cryptically because I'm not trying to vilify and scandalize anybody. Okay?
Yeah, thank you.
So allow me to talk cryptically. But I went through a very traumatic transition. And I had some expectations, and those expectations were disappointed. And sometimes disappointments come in because it's an appointment that God didn't set. Your appointment was displaced. So I went through some stuff, and as a result of coming through it, it was so traumatic that I said to God, and I'm not going to use the term I use with him, but I said to him, I don't need none of these guys covering me.
I wonder what the other term was.
Listen, Thurston, I don't want you to be in a situation where folks say, where did he get this heathen pastor from? So I'm going to be nice. But, I have a very candid relationship with God.
Yes.
And, I just rest somehow. So I said, I don't need none of these covering me. And God said, okay. He said, that's cool. He said, but remember this. He said, the day you cannot be led is the day you're disqualified from leading.
Ooh.
God knows how to say stuff to you, and it's like an uppercut. Ugh.
Yeah, man. Oh, yeah. That's powerful.
And it gets you together real quick. And that started me on the path of beginning to realize that, in fact, I could survive church hurt, being hurt in the church, and on a level that most people don't expect, which is from leadership. I think that might be probably one of the deepest levels of it. Okay? You just don't expect it. But leaders are human too.
Absolutely.
And that's when I had to get to the other aspects of it, of realizing, you have these expectations of these individuals, but you know, you getting ready to walk in the same road. And you know what? You are going to hurt somebody.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you reap what you sow. So if you sow unforgiveness, then you're going to reap unforgiveness. If you sow the lack of compassion and the lack of understanding, when it's your turn and everybody gets a turn at bat, then you're going to reap that.
Yes.
Okay. So
yes.
I was able to start moving on. And it was so bad for me. It was so bad for me that I did not trust older preachers. I didn't trust them. Is this all right, fellas? Brothers,
yes, listen.
Is this okay?
Absolutely. Okay. Absolutely.
And then even that, one day, God, he tapped me on the shoulder. He said, you got to get this together. He said, because if I spare your life, you're going to be an older preacher.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're sowing mistrust, you're going to reap mistrust. So I had to move, and thanks be to God, I was able to start surviving it. And then I'm at the place now where I'm thriving from it. And it has shaped a very critical aspect of my pastoral philosophy.